Hello everyone, I'm Amy and I'm at home in my kitchen. Thanks so much for being here and joining me. We made it till Friday. I'm so happy we got through another week of this. Today I am making something that is one of my favorites. It's brown butter salted Rice Krispie treats. So come on over here. It's all done in a big pot. And there's no baking at all. It's really easy. I think I will come over and let's look inside the stove. I have 6 tablespoons of butter melting. And I'm gonna show you how the butter goes from a stick of butter to brown butter. And it's really easy and really fast. It's really important to keep an eye on the butter the whole time so it doesn't burn, because we really want to take the butter right down to like a toasty brown color. So this is going to happen really fast. I mean, it's going to happen in like a minute. So I'm just going to keep an eye on it. And I have a wooden spoon. I'm going to stir it around. It's really interesting to see how butter changes from an actual stick of the butter that we're all familiar with to something completely different. Butter has a lot of water in it. And what makes it brown is literally just cooking the water out of it. Once the water evaporates, the milk solids inside the butter that actually make it butter start to cook because there's no more water to kind of keep it from cooking. And what happens is first the butter melts and then it starts to get bubbly, as you can see. And then eventually it won't be bubbly anymore. It'll start to just get brown. And there are a lot of fancy terms for this in cooking. This is how you make clarified butter. And I don't really want to get into clarified butter right now because that's a whole other video. But it's essentially separating the milk solids in the butter from the pure butter. And a lot of chefs like to cook with clarified butter because it's a more of a pure butter taste. We're not going to do that today. We're literally just getting the butter brown. So this is what it looks like, and it's really toasting up nicely. It smells great.
Mom, do you want to remind everybody what we're making here?
Yes, we are making brown butter salted Rice Krispie treats.
All right.
So the next thing I'm going to do is add my marshmallows. And I just have a regular bag of marshmallows. You can make homemade marshmallows if you want. That we can talk about in another video, but right now I'm just using a bag of marshmallows that I got at the store. And I'm continuing to brown my butter. We'll come over here and let's look at the butter again. You can see the bubbles are like really hopping. This is exactly what you want. And what's interesting now is some of the milk solids are starting to turn brown and they're settling into the bottom. This is perfectly fine. I am about to cut the heat on this because at this point, your butter is brown and this is exactly what you're looking for. So I'm turning my heat down and I'm going to add my marshmallows. And if you've noticed, I browned my butter and I stirred with a wooden spoon, but marshmallows are really sticky. So I'm gonna switch to a spatula now, to a it's a silicone spatula. And that way I know that nothing is going to stick to this.
We have a question from Gabriella.
Hey Gabriella, how are you?
She wants to know what a sign that you've gone too far with the browning is.
Gabriella, you've gone too far with your butter and your browning when it starts to smell terrible. When it starts to smell burnt and it turns like a really black color, you'll know. I think a lot of home cooking is intuitive and we all have it in us. We all have that intuitive instinct. And now that we're all home cooking and figuring out how to cook and what looks right and what doesn't look right, I think it's really important to just use that intuitiveness. So, you know, you might have a fail. You might take your butter too far and brown it too far, and at that point you have to throw it away. But it's just one stick of butter. I mean, we don't want to waste anything right now, but you're not really ruining a recipe by overcooking your butter at that point.
So
yeah.
then following up on that, I guess,
Yeah.
Nat Joy has a question.
Hey Natalie, I'm telling your story. What's your question?
How long should it take for the butter to brown?
Well, you just saw me brown the butter in about a minute, and that's really all it takes. I mean, you can do it a little slower, and I kind of advise that for first-time butter browners. You can brown your butter on a low heat, which will take about 5 minutes. Or if you're like me and have browned a lot of butter, then you can just do it really fast and just keep an eye on it, and just hold your confidence really tightly, and then you'll have exactly what you need in no time. And as you can see, I have been stirring the marshmallows continuously. I'm not looking to cook anything, but I want to melt all of the marshmallow right into the brown butter, and it's like 2 seconds away from being completely done. You can kind of see a few lumps still of marshmallow, and those are gonna melt and dissolve right away. But this is something you really want to keep stirring, 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 because we don't want anything to brown too much. It's sort of a balance. It's a little bit like candy making, and you just want to keep it going, going, going. But you know what? This is all you have to do for this recipe. So I'm gonna turn the heat off, and I'm gonna add a little pinch of salt. And this is fine salt. I'm using fine sea salt. The fine salt goes right into this mixture and it dissolves really quickly, but I'm gonna finish it with different salt. So I am going to move this over.
Callie Humphrey has a question.
Yeah, hey Callie.
Did
Here,
you
come over. You wanna come over here?
Yeah. Did you change the level of the heat when you put the marshmallows in?
I did. Callie, I did. I turned the heat down a little bit. I had the heat up really high to brown the butter, and I don't advise that because I think it's a little bit too high, but I wanted to melt it really fast for this video. And it is possible, but I think a good heat for this whole recipe is about medium. And I'm gonna put that in my written recipe when I publish this video. So I added my salt, and I added 6 cups of Rice Krispies. And I'm just stirring this to coat. This is really fun, by the way. It's very therapeutic. It's like fun to just kind of mindlessly do nothing and stir ingredients like this. Make sure every little tiny Rice Krispie is covered in buttery, nutty marshmallow goodness. All right, so this is done. This is done, done, done. And the next step is to take a baking dish like this, and this is like kind of an odd size. It's a 10 by 10 baking dish. I love it, I use it for everything, but you can really use any baking dish you want. And it almost doesn't matter how thick these are or how thin, it's really up to you. This works perfectly for me, but you could use a 9 by 9 baking dish, you could use a pie plate, you could use a bigger one, like a 9 by 11. Look how great this silicone spatula is. Nothing sticks. I highly recommend it for this. Okay. All right, so everything's in here. And I'm gonna show you a really cool trick. So I'm pushing all this around, but it doesn't really look as like flat and even as I'd like. So what I'm gonna do, I'm sprinkling some salt, and this is like a flaky salt. This is really great for a finisher. You don't really wanna cook with this, but it's great to put on top. And here's what I do to get it like all smooth and flat. This is parchment paper, and I'm literally just pressing the parchment paper all over. And the reason why you want to use parchment paper, first of all, you don't want your fingers kind of touching the food, especially now. Kind of part sanitary, but nothing will stick to parchment paper like this. So you can sort of press around and get a really even layer. How are we doing for time, Will?
10 minutes in.
Oh, great. Okay, so this is it. This is all there is to it. Brown butter salted Rice Krispie treats. I'm gonna put this aside and let that cool. That probably has to cool for about an hour before it can be cut into, but I already made some. So I'm gonna show you how to cut these, because that's a really important part too. You want them to be super cool, and then they're easily removed from the pan because the pan's buttered. And this is how I cut mine. So I'm using my chef's knife, and this is a super sharp knife. And I'm gonna cut it into threes this way and threes this way. I like mine really big. I mean, why not? So while I'm cutting, I'm gonna tell you how I had the idea to make these. I've actually been making these for a long time. It just seems logical to use brown butter instead of regular butter, because brown butter has so much incredible flavor. And you can add so many different ingredients to this. You can add chocolate chips, you can add nuts, you can add raisins. Since we have 2 batches, I think we're going to drizzle some chocolate on top of one of them, and I'll post a picture. But this recipe came to me from Natalie, and who asked a question. Thanks, Natalie. And she is making a care package for her sister in Wyoming, and she was looking for something that could be shipped to Wyoming that's not too perishable and that was a nice taste of home. So this is immediately what I thought of. So Natalie, this recipe is for you. I hope you're cooking along with me, and we can make Rice Krispie treats together, and you can ship them to your sister, and she will be super happy to get a little love from home. So I'm gonna give this a taste. So good. Really, everything I want to eat right now. I can hardly talk. Thank you so much for joining me. It means everything to be able to cook with you. Hope you have a great weekend. Bye.